Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my luxury beauty favorites from the year of 2023. So these products, I decided to just choose one per category of each of my favorite products that were released in the year of 2023. I will be following this video up with my absolute favorite luxury beauty products of all time, because those are kind of two different categories that I want to talk about. So these products are the best of the best that were released in the year of 2023 that I tried out. And again, I really tried to narrow it down by picking only one per category. So if you want to see my 2023 luxury beauty favorites, just keep watching. Before we get started into the beauty favorites, I just want to quickly say a very big thank you for all the comments that you left on my community post. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I've been away for a few weeks. You can check out that post if you're unaware of what I'm talking about. But thank you all so much for the supportive, very wonderful comments. I'm finally starting to feel better, and I feel like the distressing symptoms are slowly going away. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate the nice words, and I'm finally feeling well enough to be filming again. So I don't want to talk about that too much. I just want to get straight into the beauty favorites. I'm going to start off with foundation. So my favorite foundation of the year is the Peau Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy in the shade 030 Medium Ochre. That is my personal shade. I definitely think this foundation runs a little bit deeper than some of Pau's other shades in 030, but this matches me pretty good if I have a little bit of a tan. But I really love this foundation because of how it looks on the skin. It's this very beautiful medium buildable to a fuller coverage foundation, and it really looks lovely on the skin. So it definitely gives me more of a perfected look. So it's something that I don't usually use on an everyday basis. But what I really like about this foundation is because it is that medium buildable to a fuller coverage, you have a variety of ways you can use it. You can just use it as a medium to fuller coverage foundation. You can just build it like that. Or you can mix this in with a moisturizer and you can get a sheer coverage. Or you can just go in with literally like a little bit of product and you can really blend it into the skin so that you can get that light coverage foundation. So I really like these types of foundations that are more manipulative than a light coverage foundation, because you're kind of stuck with a light coverage foundation only being a light coverage foundation. But my favorite thing about this foundation is how it looks on the skin. It just looks so beautiful. So your skin looks definitely more perfected, but it doesn't look like heavy makeup. And it gives, my favorite thing is the blurring filtered effect, which is basically what I require in a foundation. It must look filtered and blurred and just really beautiful on the skin. And that is what this foundation does. Even though it's classified as a dewy foundation, it does do that blurring filtered effect job perfectly. And even though, again, it is dewy, I think if you have combo skin, this still could work for you. You just need to powder it in the center of your face, go in with a mattifying primer. If you have very, very oily skin, I would maybe stay away from this one because it is a little bit more of a hydrating foundation. But on my dry skin, it wears beautifully all throughout the day. This has a great longevity to it, and there's just nothing really bad I can say about this foundation. It's very gorgeous. I do want to mention a second place foundation, even though again, I'm trying to just mention one per category. If you do have an oilier skin type, I just feel like this would be a better option for you. So I did want to mention it. This is the Prada Reveal Foundation. You can see mine's only the refill because they were sold out of the full size of this. Really, really enjoy this. This is in the shade MN40. The perfect way I could describe this foundation is that it is like my Chanel Sublimage L'Essence Détente, which is right here, but it's like a matte version of this foundation. So if this was too hydrating for you, I'd really recommend trying out this foundation because it gives the same amount of coverage and it gives that same blurring filtered effect, except it's just a little bit more mattifying. So it's a little bit more skin-like. It gives that more velvet finish. I've been really enjoying this foundation when I want that really beautiful skin-like finish where my skin just looks like my skin but better, just more slightly enhanced. It has a little bit more coverage than something that's like your skin but better, but very beautiful foundation. So love these two for the year of 2023. The best concealer that I tried in 2023, this is going to be no surprise. You've heard me talk about this so much. This is the Surratt Dewdrop Concealer in the shade number 4. I really love this because this has a more medium to fuller coverage, which I prefer on my under eyes because I'm someone that does have darker under eye circles. This does a great job of concealing without requiring a color corrector underneath, which some of my lighter coverage concealers, I do require that. This is just so beautiful. It has a thin consistency. So I really like that because it just sits on the under eyes really beautifully. It doesn't look heavy. It doesn't look cakey. It never separates. It never gets weird and dry on the under eyes. Sometimes when I've applied a concealer, like 4 hours later, it starts to look dry, maybe a little heavy. This never does. It just stays consistent throughout the whole day, never creasing or fading. It's just really lovely. This is a concealer that I also gave to my mom because Surratt actually did send me this concealer, just to disclose that. This is what I will 100% repurchase this once I am through with it because that is how much I love it. And this is a concealer my mom is also really loving as well. And my mom is 65 and it wears really well under her under eyes as well. So I'd say this would work really well if you have mature under eyes as well. Just a really flawless, beautiful concealer. Initially, I was loving the Givenchy. This is the Prisme Libre concealer. I thought this was going to take #1 spot until Surratt released this. I will say though, if you're looking for something for face and under eyes, I think the Givenchy works a little bit better on the face just because of the doe foot application. It works a little bit better. This is a little bit harder to apply in specific areas. So I prefer this concealer for under the eyes specifically. This one I can use for the under eyes and the face, but if I had to just pick one, it's the Surratt all day long. It's so, so good. Recommend it if you haven't tried it out yet. I actually didn't try a new powder this year, so I have no powders to mention for new releases of 2023. I do want to mention that I did get my hands on the Chantecaille Radiant Glow Blur Powder that people were saying was even better than the Blur Powder that was released last year. Unfortunately, I still think the the Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder is way better than this one. This is a little bit too glittery, shimmery, so I didn't even feel like I could mention it in the best of 2023 because I just feel like this version is so much better. But I just wanted to quickly mention that because I know you can't get your hands on that anymore, and people were wondering my thoughts, but I still think this powder is a lot better, so that's kind of unfortunate, but this is nice. It's just I don't think as good. But anyways, let's just move along to bronzer. My #1 favorite bronzer of this year is this Hermès Plein Air. This is the Healthy Glow Mineral Powder in the shade 02 Atlas. I really, really love this formulation. Just everything about this bronzer, but I think specifically the color is really great for me. If you can see it next to my chest, it's almost like the exact same color, just a little bit darker. So it gives me the most beautiful natural bronzed effect. Sometimes with bronzers, they just come too dark and they just look, it's way too much of a contrast. So you have to be very careful how you apply those bronzers because they're just so much deeper than your complexion. But this powder, since it's so close to my complexion, it just applies very beautifully, naturally. It really enhances your natural skin. It just makes you look like you are naturally bronzed versus it being like this harsh contrast. Really beautiful. And this formula is really lovely as well because it's not ultra pigmented. So I really like that as well because you can really build up this bronzer. You can just get a sheer bronze all over the skin, or you can build it up to get a little bit more of an intense bronze look, but you will never get crazy intensity from this bronzer. So if you're someone that likes a lot of pigmentation, then I probably wouldn't recommend this bronzer. But this is just absolutely gorgeous. How it sits on the skin, again, gives that beautiful blurred effect that I love. It's a very smooth bronzer, very finely milled, just applies like a dream. You don't need any special bronzer brush to apply this. You can use any bronzer brush that you have, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I would say this is more of like a satin finish. It's like that perfect in-between of a matte and a satin. It has just a little bit of a sheen, but it's not gonna look shimmery. It's not gonna look shiny. There are no glitter particles, no shimmer to this bronzer. There's no like intermittent shimmer that you're going to see sitting on your skin. This is just my #1 bronzer. I wanted to talk about a cream blush and a powder blush, but my favorite cream blush of 2023 that was released this year is the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Beauty Blush Wand in the shade Pillow Talk specifically. Usually I don't recommend like a shade favorite, like I just say pick whatever shade you love, but in this formulation I'm specifically recommending this shade Pillow Talk because it is so, so good. It gives the most beautiful natural flush. If you can tell, this is like a really beautiful dusty rose kind of color, and it just makes my cheeks look like they're blushing from within. This formula is very beautiful. It definitely does have some decent pigmentation to it, as you can see, but it blends really beautifully into the skin if you apply it in the correct way, and it just melts into the skin. It gives you that beautiful skin-like glow where it just looks like you've been outside and your face is flushed. That's the kind of color it gives you, which I really, really enjoy because it's just a very natural flushed color on my skin personally. And I will say a con to this is if you're a beginner, these are a little bit harder to work with because this is kind of a liquid blush, so it does dry down onto the skin. Because of that, you have to work a little bit quicker and you have to be careful with how you apply it. I see a lot of people just applying it from the tube and dotting it onto the face. Don't do that. It'll be way harder to blend. If you apply too much, then you're kind of screwed. But I like to just apply it onto the palm of my hand, get a brush, really distribute that product onto the brush and apply it to the skin. I am doing a get ready with me with all these products so you can see these products in action and how I actually suggest applying them. So you'll get to see this product on my skin and how I apply it. But this is really beautiful if you're looking for a liquid or cream blush formula that looks beautiful on the skin. And this is also, because it's a liquid blush, it lasts on the skin all day long. Cream blushes are notorious for fading away really quickly, but because this is a liquid, it does last all day long. So absolutely perfect for your long days. And if you want a skin-like blush, definitely check this one out. For powder blush, I was really debating between two blushes. So I really like this Gucci. This is the Cheeks and Eyes Powder Luminous Matte Blush in the shade True Pink. So Gucci released this formula last year, but they just came out with new colors, and I really enjoy this shade. So I wanted to kind of mention it, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the Givenchy Prisme Libre blush. So this is the 4-color loose powder blush in the shade number 2, Taffeta's Rose. I really, really love this formula and this shade. I kind of wish they had some other shades that were maybe more neutral in tone, but this shade definitely works the best for me. So it comes with 4 different shades of pink. And what you do is it is a loose blush, so you tap a little bit out in this cap, and then you have to break up the little pigments with your brush, and you apply it onto the skin. So I'd say the downfall of this is that every time you apply this blush, you're not going to get the same color on your skin. You're always going to get something a little bit different, just because unfortunately with this, you can't get out an even amount of each color. It just kind of loosely comes out and you're stuck with what it gives you. And I guess another downfall to that is because it is a loose powder blush, it's a little bit more finicky to apply because you're not just going straight in with this compact and applying it onto your skin. You have to get that pigment evenly distributed into your brush, tap off the excess, and then go into the cheeks. I don't mind that because I typically apply my blushes where I'm always tapping off the excess, always making sure it's evenly distributed into my brush. So I don't mind that extra like 30 seconds that this takes to apply. And I know that sounds maybe like it's super complicated to apply this blush. It's really not. It's easy once you get the hang of this, once you've used this a few times. Very easy to apply. But I really like the effect that this gives to the skin because it almost is as if you've applied a cream blush onto the skin. It looks so beautiful onto the skin. It looks very seamless. There are no harsh lines. It just kind of melts into the skin. It's one of those powders that really does have that cream-like finish where it almost reacts like a powder, or it acts like a cream on the skin because it does really meld in. It just looks very seamless. It has that beautiful blurred effect that I love in my blushes. It's not too shimmery, like there are no shimmer particles where you can see shimmer on the cheeks. Very beautiful satin finish, and it just looks very skin-like and very pretty. So Dore recently reformulated their Backstage blushes, and unfortunately the reformulation is not good. Hate to say that, but it's just not good. They're very chalky, dusty blushes. If you're looking for a replacement for that, what's that pink? Just the pink shade, this would be a great replacement because I feel like it gives that similar effect where the previous version looked on the skin. The previous version, before the reformulation, just really melted into the skin and really just enhanced your cheeks and gave you just a soft hint of color that was very beautiful. I feel like this is a great replacement. It gives that same effect, but it's not that bad reformulation now. So I definitely recommend that if you were unhappy with the reformulated version of the Dore blushes, a great replacement, and I'm just really liking this formula currently. My number one highlighter of the year is this Gucci Illuminator de Beaute. So this only comes in one shade, which is kind of a downfall. I don't love that. I wish there was different options. This is supposed to be like universal, but we all know nothing can be universal. We need to come out with different shades. But besides the point, I love this formulation so much. And if you are new to my channel, I typically don't talk a lot about cream liquid highlighters because I hate how they remain sticky and tacky on the skin. And I feel like they also melt products underneath. but I really love this formulation from Gucci because it has this dry down to it. So it actually dries down onto the skin so it doesn't remain tacky or sticky. And I really love this as well because it's an illuminator that doesn't have any distinct shimmer or glitter particles. You're not going to see intermittent shimmers on your skin. You're not going to see sparkles, which again, I don't like with a lot of liquid illuminators. I feel like they're a little bit too shimmery. This is very skin-like. This just gives your skin this beautiful, soft glow that's gorgeous. It works really well. So my favorite way to apply it is underneath my foundation, almost just as like a primer where it just gives your skin a beautiful glow. But then also for like special occasions, I'll just apply it over top of my foundation. And it just is so beautiful. If you are very, very, very fair skin tone, this might be a little bit too deep for you, but I think otherwise it will work for a variety of people. Just a gorgeous formulation. And because of how fine the shimmer particle is in this, you could also mix it in with your concealer or your foundation if maybe you want to sheer things out a little bit and make your foundation just a little bit lighter in coverage. This would be a great option. You can see how much I've gone through. I need to get a backup because I'm almost done this one. Just beautiful. And the packaging is really lovely as well. I actually do really like this dropper because it's not as messy as some other liquid products, but really, really loving this. My favorite eyeshadow palette that I tried in 2023 is definitely the Clé de Peau eyeshadow quad in the shade number 2, Beach Pebbles. I absolutely love this formulation. So I think this was an improvement off their prior formulation of eyeshadows. Those were definitely really pretty, but they had more intermittent shimmer to them. These are phenomenal. So Clé de Peau has kind of been going through this revamp where they've been redoing their products. So I do believe that they will be reformulating their blushes next. And so I'm very happy with all the reformulations that have come out thus far. This is beautiful. The powder eyeshadow, so there are 3 powder eyeshadows. They are extremely finely milled. They're very easy to blend. They basically require no effort. They're so beautiful on the eyes. These would be beautiful if you have mature skin because of just how they apply on the eyes. They are just so seamless. They're so pretty. They just have that very beautiful buildable coverage. So they don't start out super pigmented. So you do have to build them up. But I really like that. And I think that is just a more flattering look. Absolutely love, love, love this formula. And then you have this one. It's almost like a putty. So this is actually the primer shade and you apply this first. When you apply this first, all the eyeshadows apply even more seamlessly. If they could even be easier to blend, this makes it even easier. So this is almost like a putty shade. It feels very much like a putty. It's very interesting. It feels like Play-Doh almost. It's very, you can like maneuver and manipulate this sort of shade. It's not a typical powder eyeshadow. So it's very unique. And I just absolutely love this formulation. I have nothing bad to say about it. Really love this color story because I just think it's so sophisticated and elegant. This is the kind of color story I can wear for any occasion. I can wear it to just go to the grocery store, but I can also wear it to a very special event where it's a more special occasion. Love, love, love this formula. This is something I got my mom to pick up as well, and she absolutely loves it as well. Just so, so good. And then my favorite one and done eyeshadow of the year is from Surratt. This is the Souffle eyeshadow in the shade Ciel, Dore. I do want to disclose again, Surratt did send me this. But this is a shade I would have purchased. They sent me 3 shades. I wouldn't have purchased all 3. I would have just purchased this one. But this is the most unique one and done eyeshadow, just eyeshadow in general. So I wouldn't even say it's a cream eyeshadow. It's very different. Where I described this Clé de Peau primer shade as like Play-Doh, this is like Flubber. Do you remember that movie Flubber with Robin Williams? You know, that Flubber guy? This feels like that. It's not quite Play-Doh because it's not thick. It's just a very, it's so interesting. I think I described it in another video that if you remember those like science birthday parties that you had when you were younger and they had those little jelly things that you would create, that doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry. But I'm trying to describe this and it's very hard to describe because it's not a typical cream eyeshadow. And it's so interesting because I've used this a bunch of times, but it basically looks like I haven't put a dent into this. I feel like this will last forever. And it's just a very unique consistency. It's like nothing I can describe. It's like in between a cream eyeshadow. I guess that's the best way to describe it. But when you apply it onto the skin, it gives a beautiful, just a beautiful application. So you can tell there's no crazy glitter particles. There's none of that intermittent shimmer, which I don't really like. This just gives you a beautiful sheen. And this does set down on the eyes and it wears all day long for me. I really, really love this formulation. I just think it looks so flattering. It's so pretty as a one and done because it just really enhances your natural beauty. It's not thick, it's not a heavy cream. It's just so pretty, and I really like that beautiful sheen. I feel like this will literally last forever because every time you dip into it and you apply it, it looks like you haven't even used it. It's so interesting. It's the most confusing product because I don't know how to describe it. It feels almost cooling when you put your finger into it. It's just very interesting, but I really, really love this formula just because of how sheer and beautiful it is on the eyes. It's just really, really flattering. And then for my favorite mascara, it is definitely the YSL Lash Clash Mascara. You have seen me go on and on about this. I really, really enjoy it because it is a brown shade, and I just think brown mascara is a little bit more flattering on my color personally. I think just black mascara can look a little bit harsh on my coloring, and I really like that this kind of just enhances your lashes, makes you look even more beautiful. It separates, it lengthens, and it volumizes without it being spidery. I just really like the effect that I get from this mascara every time I use it. So really love this. One con I want to say is that it does flake a little bit in the summer months specifically. It will smudge a little bit, but because of how I love how this looks on my eyes, I don't care. I just love that. And for my favorite lip product of the year, it is definitely the YSL. These are the Rouge Volupte Candy Glazes. I picked mine up in 2 shades. So I got the shade number 02, which is basically just a sheer pink. And then the shade number 15, which is like this nude color. I think it's called Showcasing Nude. It's like a brownie pink nude. But I really like this because it's like it almost feels like Vaseline, like that's the consistency. So it's really thick on the lips. So it really hugs your lips and gives them a lot of hydration. This is definitely a very glossy finish. So if you don't like that really glossy finish, you won't really like this. But I do like that thick texture because I feel like it just gives your lips this veil of moisturization. So your lips feel very hydrated after you've applied this sort of product. And I just really like this. I think my favorite shade is the shade 02. Just because I typically like this over top of a lipstick specifically, not as a lipstick by itself. And I just love the shine that it gives, how comfortable it is. I like to throw this in my bag to touch up. Just absolutely love that. But that is everything for my 2023 luxury beauty favorites. Definitely stay tuned for the Get Ready With Me, which I'm going to post next. And then I'm going to film my ultimate favorite luxury beauty products of all time. So you can see if any of my luxury beauty favorites have been replaced by products that were released in 2023, or if I still have Holy Grail products that were not released in 2023. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below your favorites from 2023. Maybe give me like a top 3 to 5 list. I always love to hear from you. And again, thank you just so much for your kind words on my community post. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.